Musical chairs down the left-hand side. Arteta is a fantastic technician.
It's first versus third going into this weekend. Arsenal versus Liverpool on Sunday afternoon at the Emirates Stadium. Liverpool boss Arne Slot outsmarted Enzo Maresca last week, and next on his list is Gunners manager Mikel Arteta. We are back in the Tactics Exposed studio, and I'm joined as ever by Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. And Dino, you've got 5 intriguing tactical points that fans should be looking out for on Sunday afternoon at the Emirates.
Yeah, another Prem blockbuster. And first of all, it's beware Trent, because Arteta's got a new musical chairs thing going on down the left-hand side, which is freeing up Martinelli. And we've also got mystery man Calafiori, who's popping up everywhere, left back, midfield, everywhere, but that could leave Salah with the freedom of the Emirates. There's too many holders at Arsenal at the moment. They've got a big side, all in midfield, but let's give Nwaneri a chance to take that Odegaard role. And Saka might be fit, but Arteta's got problems, and replacing Saliba is that tricky puzzle. And we've talked about David Raya before, but this is going to be really key against Liverpool. Direct David Raya.
It's back-to-back tactical clashes then for Arne Slot. Dino, we're not allowed to call him Arnie anymore, are we?
Sorry about that, guys, in the comments. My pronunciation.
But yeah, Arne Slot, I mean, Chelsea at home, did a good job there. We covered it in the review show that he just kind of eked it out. It was fairly toe-to-toe. Expecting the same thing at the
Well, they're
Emirates?
very adaptable. We talked about before how adaptable Liverpool are, but Arteta is a fantastic technician. He knows what he's doing. He's going to have a fabulous week on the training ground this week. He's got problems. They've got injuries. They've got suspensions. But he's still moving the dial at Arsenal. Let's not downplay it. He's been absolutely brilliant. And the first thing is this thing they're doing on the left, where you've got Calafiori as the sort of new inverted left back. Declan Rice, as we've said before, plays up that inside left channel. You've got Martinelli, who's returning to form over on the left-hand side, and then you've got Kai Havertz. And they're creating this diamond on the left-hand side, where what they do is they rotate through positions. There have been quite a few analysts who have spoken about how they don't really have positions. They do have positions. It's a bit simplistic to say they can go anywhere. Right. What they do is they move into the position that somebody else has vacated. Yeah. So on that left-hand side, they'll go forward when the others move. Yeah.
You've spoken, or in the review show, you spoke about, I think it was Gakpo being on a piece of string with Szoboszlai, I think.
And Jones as well.
Curtis Jones, sorry, yeah. And how the other person, or the one player, only moves based on what the other one does. Is this the same?
It's very similar. And what it's doing is freeing up Martinelli, because Martinelli, I think it's fair to say, had a tough second half of the season. Bit low on confidence last year as the season ended, as their title charge ended up faltering towards the end, despite a brilliant effort. But this year, he's really found his form. Look, he missed a good chance against Bournemouth when they were 0-0 at the weekend. But what is happening is now they've got Calafiori coming into the inverted fullback position, OK? And then Declan Rice is very, very tactically aware of where he should go next. So as Calafiori comes inside, Rice will go to the left. Martinelli is further forward on that diamond, and Havertz is the brilliant genius who see everything else coming. And it doesn't really matter which of those has got the ball, but when the ball moves between the diamond, they all move positions. Yeah. It's almost like cones in a training ground, where they move through there. And what then that means is either Rice with his right foot on the left of the diamond, or Calafiori, who moves to the base of the diamond, then can play that ball up the middle for Martinelli to run onto. And that all of a sudden is freeing Martinelli up. And they did this against Southampton. They did it against Leicester. They did it a little bit in the Champions League in the week, but they had more injury and suspension problems again. But it's really, really dangerous, because for Trent in particular, who do you mark? Who do you pick up? Do you go with the man who's leaving that right back position to begin with, or do you hold your position and then try and pick up the runner? It's really difficult to do in game.
So I'm not going to have a go at you for calling him Trent again. You know I prefer it when you call him Alexander-Arnold, but we'll leave that one for now. Talk to me about musical chairs then. How does that apply? Because I was very excited when I saw it.
Yeah, so that's basically it, those 4 points of the diamond. So at one point, one of them will have the ball, and it's almost like the music starts. And then the ball will be played, be it across the diamond or somewhere else, and then they'll all move positions. all at one time. And then that means the right back and probably inside right midfielder of the opposition. In this sense, it might be Szoboszlai, it might be McAllister, it could be Gravenberch for Liverpool, have got to be aware of who's running and who's staying. Because if they all move positions at once, then you sort of look and go, whoa, who's my man, who's your man? So that's something that Liverpool are going to have to work out this week. It's been really successful for Arsenal, and we saw a goal that they scored at the Emirates a couple of weeks ago where Calafiori ends up in the centre-forward position and actually lets the ball run for Trossard to score. And that's because they've all moved in this diamond formation, musical chairs down the left-hand side. And actually, last season, Arsenal really struggled to attack on their left. Everything went through Saka and Odegaard on the right-hand side and Havertz moving that way. This year, they've freed up the left as well.
If he doesn't play, Dino, how does that affect Arsenal? Can his replacement just slot in and play the same role?
It's very difficult, yeah. I mean, it could be Zinchenko, who has played that inverted position before, but other teams targeted Zinchenko. Was that the case? It's really, really interesting to see all the areas he pops up in on the field. Against Southampton in particular, he did it again against Leicester. He was not just inverting. He was following his pass. And Arsenal are very interesting, OK? They don't play that many passes. They're 300 or 400 passes below Man City in the Premier League season this year. But they also don't play many backwards passes. And so you need people like Calafiori in these positions in midfield. And as we talked about before with Gvardiol for Man City, and then last week Malo Gusto for Chelsea going into that sort of almost number 10 position from left back.
You're talking about Calafiori then and how important it could be when Arsenal have got the ball. One thing we may be overlooking here is that from a defensive point of view, the man he's responsible for marking is Mohamed Salah.
Yes, very, very key. And a couple of Arsenal fans who I was talking to before this episode were talking about how Zinchenko really struggled with Salah last year. So they won't want Zinchenko to be the man that plays if Calafiori is injured. Then, yeah, that's going to be a real threat. Will Gabriel get dragged out to that left-hand side to go and deal with Salah? It was similar to what we talked about in the Chelsea episode where, you know, it's a game of stick or twist. They want that diamond rotation on the left-hand side, but then goodness me, Mohamed Salah's going the other way. But that's where Declan Rice comes into it as well. Declan Rice is the man, you know, you saw him at West Ham all those times, covering for the left-back who's gone wandering and his energy and whatever there. So you'll see Declan Rice occupying that position quite a lot. But goodness me, Mohamed Salah at the Emirates, licking his lips at the fact that Arsenal have got a makeshift defence.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Declan Rice covering pretty much every position on the pitch at West Ham. It's just interesting, isn't it? The last couple of weeks and the last few episodes, we've established how important sort of fullbacks, you used to call them, then there were wing-backs, but, you know, right and left-backs, how important they are on both sides of the ball these days. And it has been said that they're perhaps two of the most important positions in a whole team, and how, particularly in games like this, two behemoth teams coming up against each other, it actually comes down to how much of a risk each manager or their appetite for risk, because like Calafiori, you want him involved. He does great things for Arsenal against teams who aren't going to have as much of the ball. But then it's like, actually, do less of that for this week because we need you keeping hold of Salah.
Yeah, and also you're going to get carried away in a game. You know, the players are fired up. You know, the fans have got them going. It's a huge game. And, you know, and keeping that level of concentration about that tactical position that the manager wants you to pick up in case you lose the ball in transition is very difficult. But Rice is an absolute expert at that. And what we should point out as well is that Arteta is still wanting them to set up in this 3-2-5 formation when they go forward. They defend like a 4-4-2, but then when they get the ball in possession, that Ben White normally as the right back will tuck in to make a back three. You know, the inverted full-back has gone in to make two in midfield. And Rice goes up that inside left position, and when it was Odegaard or whoever it will be in that position goes forward, and they've got five in attack. They're still being brave. So let's see how brave they are when Salah and Diaz are going the other way.
Yeah, quite. Right, you've mentioned Declan Rice. Too many holders in midfield for Arsenal is what you're saying. And the answer perhaps to unlock that is to give young Ethan Nwaneri a chance.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the pronunciation right on Nwaneri because we were told off last week. But yeah, Arsenal had a real problem at Bournemouth. Arteta went back to more of a 4-3-3 formation with 3 holders, effectively.
Pre or post Saliba's red card, which is obviously why he missed this game.
Pre. Even he started the game with Merino and Rice and Partey all playing. And so, look, they're a big side, aren't they? Merino talks about it being a basketball side. But what they were missing, really, was the point guard. Yeah. The guy with the dribble, the guy who's going to actually unlock something. You know, you can have all your jar.
Position that is.
Yeah, come on, you must have watched The Last Dance. Yeah. But no, that's what they were missing, and that is what they are missing. And look, you listen to Ian Wright, you listen to a load of the Arsenal fans at the moment. Unfortunately, we have to listen to Arsenal fans a lot, don't we? But sorry guys, but realistically, they've got this problem where, as I said, they don't pass the ball backwards very much. Yeah. Okay, but they also are not top of the passing league statistics in any shape or form. So they rely on ball carriers. Right. They rely on Declan Rice running up that inside channel. They rely on Bukayo Saka, as we've done before, coming off that right wing and taking the ball on the run. They play less intricate stuff, but they're direct, OK? But what they missed at Bournemouth was that player who can break the lines. Declan Rice has a bit of a problem with that. We've spoken about that in England's situation before. He is not the best 20-yard passer through the lines to break the lines. He breaks the lines
like
with the run.
Like Colwell's doing for Chelsea.
Absolutely. Like Colwell we talked about last week, and like Romero's doing for Tottenham, like Diaz does for Man City. They cut through the lines with that first pass. And they've got a bit of an issue with that, Arsenal, where they've got these huge guys, Merino, Partey and Rice in midfield, blimey, you don't want to play against them or meet them in a dark alley of the night either. They're big fellas. But Arteta's got a decision to make. When is the time to free up Ethan Nwaneri? And look, he's 17 years old. It's a lot to put on his shoulders, but he is a tricky little player on the ball. And if you've got those defensive players in the team, why not free him up? Yeah. Release him of his defensive responsibility, play him like an old-fashioned 10, and then still in your defensive shape, when they line up in a 4-4-2, he'll be alongside Kai Havertz as the sort of Odegaard role, if you like. The only issue with that is the amount of responsibility that would give him.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I've listened to you quite a lot this season and in seasons gone past, talking tactically, of course. And one thing is that we've picked up on is the trigger, right? The press trigger. Now, different players do that for different teams. With Arsenal, it tends to be Martin Odegaard who does that. And actually, like you say, for a youngster, teenager, Ethan Nwaneri, as much as what he may be able to do on the ball, which is what fans are seeing, it's perhaps what he's required to do off the ball that Mikel Arteta might be worried about.
Exactly that. And look, they'll hope that Saka's fit as well. And like, let's assume that he is after he was rested in midweek. But yeah, they've used Trossard in that position, in the Odegaard position, because Trossard is an experienced player. Look, he's had his problems on the ball of late, and his form is not great. I mean, his through ball for Bournemouth, we should gloss over probably. It
was a great through ball.
It was a great through ball, yeah. I'm not sure Saliba agrees. But yeah, the position he picks up is that he is that press trigger. And so that means he knows where everyone is around him. He will get a call from a Partey or a Rice behind him, and then they'll trust each other that that's when they'll go. And I would suggest that is why that Arteta is slightly reticent to throw Ethan Nwaneri into that position. But they struggled on the ball at Bournemouth. They need more creativity, especially if they're going to miss Saka. And they've got injuries and suspensions all over the place to worry about.
Well, look, Bukayo Saka may be fit. Mikel Arteta, it feels, doing one of those, no, he hasn't been training, no, he's nowhere near it. But maybe that he's a little bit more ready for this game than Arteta's suggesting. But it's the William Saliba sent off for that tug back on Evan Nielsen after just half an hour in that defeat at Bournemouth that leaves them without one half of the best centre-back pairing in the league, potentially in Europe at the moment. So Darwin Núñez could be licking his lips.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's an even bigger loss than most Arsenal fans think. He's a Rolls Royce, isn't he? He's a sensational player, and what he does is enables your team to press because of his pace, because of how good he is on the turn, and because of how he blocks channels and he reads the game. It means that you're allowed to make mistakes with your press, because then somebody else is there to mop up. And he does it so often. So does Gabriel. But as a pair, they are sensational. So
cover all bases.
Absolutely, yeah. Arteta's got some problems this week, real problems. More problems than he's got grey hairs, as was one of the comments this week, which is great. As someone with more grey hairs than Mikel Arteta, but what he's got to make a decision of, and it was interesting in the Shakhtar game, he took Ben White off after Ben White was booked, maybe because of their disciplinary issues as well. But I think it was because he was trying Thomas Partey out at right back.
Former centre-back Ben White, you mean?
Yes, exactly, yeah. So Ben White, I think, could switch to centre-back and Thomas Partey could play as the right back. Now, there's two reasons for that. There's obviously the fact that Ben White has played centre-back before and that probably Arteta doesn't want to play Kiwior, OK? Yeah. The second thing, though, is that in their build-up play, Thomas Partey slots in almost like a right-back anyway, often in that shape that they move into where Calafiori gets freed up. Partey feels that kind of Trent Alexander-Arnold role, or, you know, the inside right, thank you, that inside right full-back role where Thomas Partey sort of spends a lot of his time anyway. So from a tactical shape perspective, I think he could try Partey there. Then there's obviously the Marino factor where he's now fit, so they have got two holders still in Rice and Marino. Obviously, if he wants to keep Partey in midfield, he's got to find somebody else, whether it's Kiwior or somebody else to play right back. That you know, he's running out of options there with his injury issues. But also, it means that he can leave his attacking shape the same.
Thomas Partey up against Luis Diaz. If I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm going, yes, please, that sounds nice. But it feels like Ben White instead of Kiwior as a replacement for Saliba. It just feels like it fits more.
And with Darwin Núñez up front for Liverpool, they can get into this position where they've got these three midfield players, Liverpool, who know their roles brilliantly well. We saw that against Chelsea. The two wide men, we know what they're going to do, whether it's Gakpo or Diaz on the left, and then it's Salah on the right. And then you can just let Núñez just be chaos and let chaos reign at the Emirates.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, David Raya, we've done an episode earlier in the season on Tactics Exposed about his secret weapon, which was that direct throw, zipping it out to diagonal. See, I do listen to you and remember these things. How is this going to be a key weapon if it's the same thing, and David Raya in general against Liverpool?
Yeah, as I said before, they don't play many backwards passes, Arsenal. They're very forward-thinking, which is great, but they don't play passes for passes' sake. There's no sort of shifting responsibility, I call it, not passing. If you don't want to play it forwards, then give it to somebody else. That's shifting responsibility.
Yeah,
sure. But Raya's bowling out, throwing out into those winger channels is so key, and it's all because of how good Kai Havertz is as well. But what we've seen in the last few weeks is teams are starting to believe a bit more against Arsenal, even Southampton and Leicester. And PSG did a little bit in the Champions League as well. Shakhtar certainly did in midweek. They start to believe a bit more that they might be able to nick the ball off Arsenal in higher areas of the field. And so what Arteta and Arsenal do is they go over it.
Yeah.
They go over the press. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That just seems sensible, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not abandoning, attractive football. This is then, Kai Havertz is 6'4". He's a handful for centre-backs. So if Raya's as accurate as Raya is, skip over the press into Havertz, Saka and Martinelli, or Sterling and Martinelli, or Trossard and Martinelli going the other way, happy days. So what we need to look out for here is that Kai Havertz drifts into a position, and I talk about it a lot, unselfish runs or dragging centre-backs with him. And he'll drag those centre-backs with him to create those windows behind the back four for those two guys to run into. And, it's an unselfish run, but in the end of it, often Havertz is the man who gets on the end of it anyway, because he spins and then goes in behind. Yeah. So David Raya freeing it up to Kai Havertz and the wingers running in behind. It's again, tactically intriguing.
Yeah, they're windows now. I'm sure they were corridors last week.
Windows, corridors.
I'll let you have it. Just quickly then, on that point, it feels like a little bit, because David Raya throws it direct rather than kicks it direct. Well, that's not Tony Pulis style football. No. That's a bit different. But any manager these days, you see at Man City, Pep Guardiola is an expert at drilling his teams to adapt in game. Any team now will be ridiculous not to flex on their system a little bit in order to win games and be successful.
And we talked again last week about Maresca and how Sanchez, the goalkeeper, steps into the back line to make a back four. And Arsenal will do this when they see that everybody's marked in front. And then that's what that means for Raya, is that especially without Saliba there, Gabriel will probably give the ball to Raya in the right centre-back position, obviously unmarked, and that's where his pass might go into Havertz and beat that, as we spoke about, beat that four-man Liverpool press. And so if they're then 2v2 in midfield, Havertz makes it 3, and that's the ball that Raya will play.